Everybody, I want to call the meeting to order. And we're going to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you could rise, please. Ryan, Marius, could you lead us, please?
Straight ahead.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, everybody. It's always a pleasure when we get to visit the schools and see a presentation by the students and by the teachers. So we are going to welcome the Mary Griswold School presentation. We have teachers. I'm sorry, my eyes are not focused well here today. Thank you. Michelle Wade, Lisa Turgeon, and Lisa, is it Wasseline? Along with their students.
So while they're coming up, I told them I'd do a very short introduction. Do you all mind? Just give my 30 seconds of airtime here. So Mrs. Turgeon, Mrs. Wade, Mrs. Wasseline, and our students, Carter, Adrian, Elena, and Grace, are going to showcase for you tonight how we're using Flipgrid, a technology that empowers students to use their voice to engage in the curriculum, to take lead in their learning, and in some cases, communicate with their parents their goals and their progress and how they're doing. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to our teachers, and thank you very much for being willing to participate tonight.
So we're here to show you about Flipgrid today. You might not know what it is, so I thought I'd give you a little rundown. Flipgrid is a free website that our teachers can access, and they can pose a question to their students. If their students don't have to answer by writing, they actually create a video response of themselves answering the question. What's really interesting about Flipgrid is we can take that discussion and kids can answer back and forth to each other through that technology, but we can also do it from one classroom to another classroom. Or, for example, our kids here at Griswold recorded both commercials that got sent to Hubbard, so the Hubbard kids can see the Griswold kids. Or we have a fifth grade teacher who's using it with Simpatico, so her classroom is answering questions and it's getting sent to another classroom in Illinois. So we're able to open up and let them see a broader answer from different students.
And it gives you a great pathway to learning in different genres, reading, writing, math, and science, and even the community, which was mentioned a couple times. So in reading, if kids have a hard time expressing themselves in words and writing, they can actually do a video response through that, and they can verbally tell you. But it's also great, we have a debate unit coming up, so kids can have a debatable issue, and they can talk about that, and then they can actually send that response to someone else, and you can get counterclaims, and they can respond back and forth to each other. In math, they could do a number talk through the video. In the community, we even talked about having them, when they come back, having students respond to students coming into fifth grade. So our outgoing fifth graders can leave a message for incoming fifth graders. It's a great way to say thank you through a video. So there's just a plethora of ways to use it. So we're really excited.
So we started thinking as a fifth grade team and working with Mrs. Turgeon, how could we use Flipgrid in support of our student learning objectives, which we call our SLOs. One of our objectives in fifth grade this year has been to incorporate student input into parent-teacher conferences. And so we gave the students an opportunity to film a video recorded response through Flipgrid, sharing some of their goals with their parents. And we're planning on sharing these short 2-minute videos at the end of our parent-teacher conferences this spring and the upcoming weeks. And we're even able to print out a QR code, just like the codes that are spread out among your tables. And we're even able to print
dead tree, it gives energy to the mushrooms, which gives energy to the maggots. And then this dead tree gives energy to the soil. And then the dead spider, when it dies, it gives energy to the earthworm who eats it. Energy for the apple tree, so the apple tree can grow. And then the air and the water goes into the soil, which gives energy to the soil, which the soil would give energy to the apple tree to grow, and the sun would give energy to the apple tree to grow. Imagine being a principal at school and you get hypnotized by two fourth graders named George and Harold. I'm here to tell you about one of my favorite books ever, Captain Underpants and the Terrifying Return of Tippy Tinkle Trouser. Hi, Mom and Dad. I like 5th grade because I like my new teacher, Miss Vaseline, and made me new students who have become my friends. Another thing I like is being part of Community Leaders and Beautification team. One goal I have is in reading. I've been working on taking hold of my reading and taking my reading life more seriously, and I started actually jotting. I've started doing this because it was not one of my strong suits in the beginning of the year. This is one of the sticky notes from the first time I jotted this year. And I've used this grid, the 8th grid, to show what I know, answer the question, show what I know, prove that I'm right, and explain how I know that I'm right.
Have you guys answer a question on Flipgrid today. So they brought down their computers, and I'm going to load up what the question was. The question that they're asking you is, how do you think Flipgrid would have helped you in the classroom as a learner when you were a kid? And Adrian's going to hop on my computer, and he's going to show you how to respond, and you guys are going to come back with their Chromebooks and see if any of you are willing to record a response for us. So let me get it going. Okay, Adrian, are you ready? I'm going to have to use my computer, right? Because you're going to show them how to do it. You good?
We are here to show you how easy Flipgrid is to use. I'm going to show you how to log in and enter the flip code. Grace, Carter, and Elena will come around to help you create a video response to the question. When you were a student, how would you have liked Flipgrid and why?
Right here. Do you have the code? There you go. You good?
Oh, no wonder we had codes. I was trying to figure out what the codes were.
Here, you want to come in
click this arrow. Then you log in with Google.
You're gonna be me. Yes.
This one.
Why is
Then
people smiling?
you click on
A lot of
this,
them do that to block the
and you
camera.
start
I know, but
making
then you
your
can't record
Flipgrid.
the Flipgrid if the camera's blocked.
We're gonna see. So Rick. See, she knows. So you're gonna do it, or you want me to go?
If you, I don't mind doing it, but if you have something you want to say, go ahead. You can do
No,
it.
you can go. I've used this. I don't use it all the time. My high schoolers don't like it.
So I'm actually completely lost in terms of, did we already entered in?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, I'm on the microphone too at the same time. Uh-oh. Oh, I have to look at myself?
Are there like Snapchat filters? Over your face, right? Yeah. Yeah, so it doesn't have to be your face.
So how would do I click
Cross,
record?
here.
Do I click that?
Take an emoji. And put it over your face, it'll be funny.
So I don't have to look at myself.
No, which one do
I
you?
need one with a
Do a
goatee.
funny one.
They're all
Keep
funny.
going.
I can do that.
You can do that one, that one's
All right, I'll
funny.
do that one.
And now make it bigger.
Would this have been useful when we were kids?
So now what? Uh-oh. Did I do that?
Now go ahead and answer the question.
I love the idea of using Flipgrid because I would love the idea of being able to communicate with kids in a different classroom. You talked about debates. I would love to be able to see what somebody else did and be able to comment on it so I could help them with their work and I could get feedback from other students in terms of what I did so I can be better at it.
Want to be able to share with different classes, both
Is that it?
within and outside the state of Connecticut. I think it's fun.
Now you gotta watch.
I don't want to watch myself.
Yeah, and just the ability to
Do you want to do one?
No, you have to take your selfie.
Oh, I have to. Why do I have to take a selfie? Why am I doing this?
go from a group of 20,
Can you tell them why he's taking a selfie?
I don't have any idea why I'm doing this.
Have you used this tool yet?
You can call me Grace if you want.
And the name doesn't match your face,
No,
but
that's
it's
all right.
cool.
Nah.
Complete.
Do you? Oh no! Oh my God! You didn't tell me you were going to put it up there. That
I
was
set you up for
fantastic.
that. I
Thank
set
you
you.
very much. You did. I had no idea that was going to happen. Thank you.
Good job. You're a good teacher. I'm good. I don't have to do it.
Display a name and title.
That was excellent.
Unless
Thank you very
unless
much.
You need to make us do that. Good job, Grace.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I'll refresh it and it'll.
Good mugshot.
That was horrible. Could have gotten the emoji to pop up on that.
I know.
You could have
I
put the
know.
emoji up there.
So when you do this with like in between like classes, but like sometimes they really push back on it, where they'll do like really inappropriate things, kind of like with Kahoot, and put inappropriate names. How they
We
like
do a
to do
lot
it.
of this at the high school. I really never hadn't thought about it at the elementary level before.
Yeah, that's right. You won't face, right?
We do a lot of we do a lot of presentations, communication skills, and the kids will make presentations, and the way they gain feedback. Their partners from home will comment on it before they actually have to make their presentation.
Yeah.
I just hit the
Well,
camera.
something you can certainly introduce.
Flipgrid would have helped when I was in school because I would have been able to hear myself speak.
stop it. Did you tap the thing again, silly?
She's gonna help me. Relax. I gotta get a mentor here. Relax. I'm an IT guy. I got someone right here. who's gonna help me. redo it? Did I get to redo it? Oh, thank you. Okay, hands on. Flipgrid would have helped me in school because I would have been able to hear myself speak and then watch myself and then reflect upon how I could improve. It also would have allowed me to look at others and then comment. Can I touch it now?
You had a wise old owl like hanging on your shoulder.
Yes, I know. I was like hanging on that. I can watch another one.
Are we, we're not
I got a selfie now? Yeah, I can get it centered up, maybe.
Is that in today?
This way.
in my district.
We canceled all.
We did too, my one-day trip to New York.
That's an excellent question.
One up on
I
the
gotta be honest with you. I missed that
Yeah,
completely.
let's just have a look at it. She knew it was going to.
I don't,
Don't put my name into it, don't want your name in there.
Well, that's February 10th. We've already done that. That's from a month ago.
oh my God, I don't know. Oh, you wanna know why? Cause I just opened it, but,
That's why. Well, that's something Brian as a district, they're gonna have to make a decision.
right, I thought that was in today's.
Thank you so much.
That's
I went to,
okay.
here we go. No, it's still opening February 10th, what's going on?
So now you can see that you guys were actually loaded up on there, and this is what a class would see. So when their classmates respond to something, it loads just like a grid, and then we can listen to what everyone said. I think Dr. McGurk might have used a cool trick in her, so is it okay if I play yours? Sure. Okay. Adrian taught you? Cool trick. Oh, I don't hear it though. You taught me how to use the emoji. I like that one.
I think using Flipgrid would have been fun to be able to share with different classes, both within the school and within and outside the state of Connecticut. I think it would have been fun to be able to share ideas back and forth with various different students.
Yeah, and just the ability to, like Adam said, talk to other people outside of your classroom, just to broaden that learning opportunity is fantastic. You go from a group of 20 or 25 people that you're talking to literally thousands and tens of thousands of people.
Okay, so what I think is super cool about Flipgrid is that you can speak your answer and say things in your own words as opposed to laboring over typing out an answer. So maybe you can be a little bit more descriptive or elaborative in a way that you wouldn't be if you had to spend the time typing something in or writing it longhand. So I think that's super cool. Plus you get to make funny faces as you're describing things, so that's pretty cool too.
Here you go. Good question.
I love the idea of using Flipgrid because I would love the idea of being able to communicate with kids in a different classroom. You talked about debates, I would love to be able to see what somebody else did and be able to comment on it so I could help them with their work and I could get feedback from other students in terms of what I did so I can be better at it.
Flipgrid would have helped me in school because I would have been hear myself speak and then watch myself and then reflect upon how I could improve. It also would have allowed me to look at others and then comment. Can I touch it now?
So that is Flipgrid in a whole, but the kids wanted to tell you what they liked about Flipgrid. You guys want to come over?
I liked Flipgrid because it was a way for us to interact and answer questions in any way we want, and it's very fun compared to raising our hand and answering a question or writing our response on a piece of paper.
I like Flipgrid because it gives us a chance to communicate in a different way. It also lets us edit our videos. For example, if you don't like to be on camera, you can cover yourself with a picture or an emoji or a screenshot. I really like Flipgrid because it's a really fun way to communicate with other people, and there are lots of add-ons to Flipgrid like emojis and screenshots.
I like Flipgrid because I can explain things without talking to someone personally, and it lets me explain my work sometimes, and it's just really fun to use.
That was fantastic. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for coming in. For me, that was actually very educational, because we use this at the high school that I teach at, but I never thought about it at an elementary school before, and the multiple ways you could use it. I love the idea that you could be a part of the parent conference. I'd never thought of that before. So nice. You guys did an excellent job. Thank you so much.
That seemed more productive than TikTok.
I think actually you're up next, am I not? Okay.
Just like to take this opportunity to recognize the Board of Education. This is Board of Education Appreciation Week this week, and thanking you for all of your service and time and the commitment you make to the Berlin Public Schools. We have a small token of appreciation for you. The Board of Education, as I hope everyone's aware, these are positions that are not paid. They volunteer their time, energies, and talents to improving the Berlin Public Schools, and just like to thank them tonight for everything. So thank you all.
These are very nice. Thank you very much.
Quite welcome.
It's a nice shirt. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian.
It's a lot of work, but it's an honor to serve. It's nice to be a part of the decision-making process, and being able to see and hear the impact you make on the kids. It's very worthwhile, so thank you. I appreciate it. I'm sure we all do. Next up, committee reports. Start with you two first. Although, before you start, Ryan, I don't know how many people got a chance to see Les Mis over the weekend, but fantastically entertaining show. The star was Marius, of course. I was very, very impressed with not just the technical aspects of it, but the acting, the singing was fantastic. You guys did a great job.
Thank you. So first, Les Mis was this weekend, the VHS musical, and it was very successful. We had almost sold out crowds every night, Thursday through Sunday, and then actually before one of our shows on Saturday, we watched a bunch of flip grids that the Griswold students had sent to us to thank us for when they came and saw a preview on Wednesday, so that was really nice.
Very cool.
Also today, March 9th, was the Student Council Blood Drive. So we had a lot of different teachers and students coming and donating blood for hospitals.
And now we have some winter sports highlights. So the boys swimming and diving, girls basketball, girls indoor track all won their division. And 3 wrestlers qualified for the state opens, along with cheerleading placing second at their division at the CCC championships. And lastly, the hockey team is currently ranked second in Division 3 as they head into the state tournament tonight.
This weekend is the Uppy annual March weekend at Camp Woodstock, where students will focus on leadership, public speaking, and other qualities.
Next week, the National Honor Society is hosting a pajama day on March 19th to raise money for the Go Baby Go build in April.
On March 25th, all juniors will be taking the SAT.
On March 29th, All Night Grad is hosting the annual Mr. VHS performance.
And then finally, on March 20th, the Unified Theater organization is putting on a day in the parks, and that is their annual play. And also related to that, the Unified and Friends Prom will be held on April 3rd. And this is a senior's capstone project actually at BHS, and different Rocky Hill students are also invited to attend with Brown students.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Committee reports. Why don't we start with the curriculum committee? We just had a meeting.
Yes, the curriculum committee, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay.
I don't know. I can hear you.
Can you all hear me? Thanks.
So the curriculum committee met just in advance of this meeting, and we discussed several things. One is the proposed 2021-2022 school calendar, which will be discussed later in tonight's agenda. Also, Dr. Merger talked to us about the potential change for grading practices. We have several different systems in place currently, letter and number based systems. So the establishment of advisory committee is what she presented to us, and where they are in that. There was also a curricular issue with regard to mathematics in the 6 to 12 grades of 6 to 12, and the Berlin Learner outcomes and vision of the graduate. We discussed making the vision and Berlin Learner outcomes more measurable than aspirational. So
I think we also talked about goals too, or at least.
we briefly touched upon some more short-term goals that we will establish as a subcommittee and work on, and hopefully accomplish over the next few months. Thank you.
Thank you. How about the Community Engagement Committee?
So we met February 19th and March 2nd, and we have another meeting on the books for a few weeks out, either next week or the week after, I can't remember, but. March 17th, there you go, thank you so much. And in these two meetings that we recently had, we analyzed what we had done last budget season to effectively communicate with our community, and we came up with a plan to take what we did last year, which was successful, and then build upon it and improve. We came up with topics for the citizen column, the dates that we need to submit and what we're going to submit. We've discussed social media briefly. We haven't gotten through because we've been spending so much time on the other discussion. We really haven't made it through a full agenda. That's why we've been meeting frequently. We just want to make sure we're, engaging our community to the best of our ability. And we did set our committee goal for 2019-2020, like we talked about in our last meeting. And Tracy, did we set a date for the Arby's?
Yeah, it's Sunday, April 26th, from 11 to 1.
Okay, so Sunday, April 26th from 11 to 1. That is when we will be going to Arby's. I know we discussed it, but you checked in with them and it's all good?
We're all set.
And we're gonna promote that. They said they would put it up on their,
Closer to the date, they'll put it on their sign.
and then if there's any other companies in town that want to host us for a meet and greet, we'll certainly take them up on it.
Excellent job. So I'm excited that we're doing our first one. Let's see how it goes.
We're going to provide coffee and cookies, and then hopefully we can answer any questions on the budget, because it's like 2 days before, I think so, right? It's like
The referendum.
Yeah, a
Yes.
couple days before or something.
So we'll push this out even at the next meeting as well, and maybe even one of the newspaper articles this is, and letting people know what we're going to be doing too. That's a good job. I'm looking forward to that. Last one, Finance and Operations.
So, Finance and Operations met last Wednesday. First off, is relative to all of our meetings now, they will be the Wednesday prior to our board meetings, so they're on the calendar the rest of the way out. We had 3 or 4 items on the agenda. The first was to discuss essentially the results of the joint Board of Education, Board of Finance meeting, and go over anything that may have come out of that. We didn't feel like there was a whole lot to address relative to that, just based on the questions that were asked. Most were answered. Rich, you did a great job of summarizing our presentation and presenting it to them. In fact, I spoke with the chairperson of the Board of Finance, and he really appreciated the fact that you consolidated it down and kept it to the point. We expect to come from the Board of Finance a budget reduction. We did ask the superintendent to begin putting a list of items that he would feel needed to be addressed based on the size of that reduction. We just really gave him a guideline of, start at this, at this number of $400,000 and take it as much as $700,000 and start listing what those things are, so that when we do get a number from the Board of Finance, we can be prepared to discuss that. We also talked about taking the 2013 study of all of our buildings, having it updated, and what we want as a short-term goal for this year, in addition to shepherding our budget through the process this year, is also to put together a building improvement and renovation plan long-term for all 5 of our buildings. Realizing that the high school would be at the tail end of that, but this was something that was in place back, started to be in 2013, and sort of has fallen by the wayside, but the fact is, they're not going to get done if we don't put a spotlight on them. So one of our goals is to get that program out in place and kind of put some parameters around it. So
It's a good idea, especially since we've openly talked about the bathroom situation and some of the structures of the elementary schools. Excellent. Is that it? Anything else?
that is it.
All right.
Did I leave anything out, gentlemen?
Anything else? CREC report. Anything from CREC? No. Okay, we'll get it next time. Correspondence to the board?
No correspondence this evening.
All right, we're moving through quickly. Audience of citizens, is there anybody that would like to speak? Just step right up to the microphone, sir. State your name and address, please.
My name's John Payton from 39 Town Drive. Oh, tip it up, there we go. John Payton, 39 Town Drive. I had a concern I was informed today that my children had to cross Robbins Road in order to get to Town Drive and from the bus. And I wanted to address that, is there any way we can have it so that where they've been dropped off on the right side of the road, so everyone.
But that's not typical. That's not the typical.
It hadn't been typical, but I understand it was a change that you guys addressed because of, that's what the bus driver said today. No, apparently not.
We'll turn it over to Jeff Kugner, our
Okay.
Director of Operations.
Yeah, I get it.
Robbins Road, number one for all of us, has been deemed a non-walking road, which means you don't walk any place to get to a bus stop or so on and so forth.
Right, there's no sidewalks, no.
What does happen, however, is depending on where the buses are going up and back,
Yeah.
what we utilize, I'm pretty sure, excuse me. I'm pretty sure we utilize, if the bus stops, and the lights go on, kids can be on one side of the road, and everything stops and goes across. That's what we do on a number of other streets. If in fact you're saying that there's been something historically that is not allowable.
That normally hadn't been occurring, and I was informed that,
We will certainly check into that.
Yeah.
Because I know that we do have streets, we have a lot of streets that are not walkable. We have a lot of streets where we deemed, as a matter of fact, Brian and I have been out to a few to say, we're not gonna have anybody walking anywhere. The stops are gonna be either at your house or at the road as you come out. We don't have many that you may not have a bus on the other side of the street where you wait on one side and the bus stops over here, the lights go on and you cross the street back and forth.
I mean, I know a lot of the kids in the neighborhood are first, second graders too. So that's even more a concern for myself and a bunch of the families, and that's why I addressed it,
Can I ask who you spoke to? Someone at MBT? Did you speak to somebody? Someone said it.
Actually, my wife did, honestly, but.
Your wife did,
Yeah.
MBT.
But, it's just concern, especially being young children, and.
We'll definitely get back to you.
Yeah.
If you could if you could, I'll come over to me after. If you give me a phone number to reach you at.
I can, sure.
Yep, that'd be great. We'll definitely get back to you tomorrow and find out what's going on.
And then I had one more thing too. You were mentioning reductions. You guys can hardly keep what you guys got. Why would they do reductions? It doesn't make any sense to me. That just seems really, I don't know how to put it nicely.
Tell the rest of the town.
I have been really, I just don't understand why there's no other cuts can be made elsewhere. I mean, why did they hit you guys? We're below most of the towns around here. I don't understand why you would do that. I know you can't address that in particular, but, I'm sure I'll be at the town council meeting addressing it as well, but.
And I think you'll hear from other town officials why it's getting addressed and why it's
Right,
getting cut.
I understand. I'm sure there's reasons. Obviously, money's an issue and stuff like that, but that was just one other concern.
Definitely
I had.
appreciate the support, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you went to the Board of Finance meeting the other night,
Yes, I
believe,
did,
correct?
yeah.
Thank you very much. I
Yes,
appreciate that.
yeah. Yep, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Payton. Thank you. Is there anybody else that'd like to address the board? Mr. Richards?
Good evening, John Richards, 239 Hawthorne Drive, Board of Ed Liaison to the Board of Finance. Mr. Payton, I'm going to be traveling in a few minutes over to a workshop for the Board of Finance that's tonight. We're scheduled for our regular meeting tomorrow. We're probably the next step short of the town council getting the budget from us. My request this evening, I think things will pass fairly quickly, but when you get to new business, I was hoping and had asked if the budget update in item C could be moved up, just because they're starting at 7, and what I'd like to do is take not only this gentleman's comment, but any comments from the Board of Ed with me to be able to speak to that. The workshop tonight, if it goes as planned, and I think that Mr. Salina and Mr. Oakes have come up with a clever concept. We need to get Mr. Lamaglio and the mayor on a flip grid, because I think it's less adversarial, we're likely to get a better outcome. But quite frankly, the item, and Mr. Oakes, you can perhaps follow with a comment as you heard it from the audience. Mr. Oakes was at the Joint Board of Finance Town Council guideline meeting, which came up pretty dry. But one of the things that was said there was by the finance director that he has a 5-year plan, and the intention tonight is to draw that 5-year plan in front of the Board of Finance to use that as a barometer. For instance, 2% growth on the town side, 3% growth on the Board of Ed, something known as, dare I say, capital, and where are we headed with bonding. So in other words, there's a framework that's already there. There's no reason to make the Board of Finance the villain, though we will take that role if necessary. But from the standpoint of where are we headed and in what context long range. Too often, I think, and I'm sure that I'm preaching to the choir here, we talk about this year I can't do it. Well, I served in your position for many years before this board and was told the same thing. There has never, man, Mr. Salina probably remembers, there has never been a good year. We need to start thinking about how the town is going to react and grow or stabilize and not have these crazy fluctuations. And as you may know, the capital that's that's within the proposed budget is $895,000. That's about 1/7 of what we actually need if we're going to ever get on a 10-year capital plan. So to me, there's no point in having a plan. There's no point in having a 5-year proposal like the finance director has if we're not going to use it as a springboard for discussion. I say this in 2 aspects. One, that's something that I'm looking for on the Board of Finance. 2, often the Board of Ed is said to be 60% of the budget, and we never invite you to come to any of these planning discussions. So if the 5-year plan gets some legs and there's going to be some discussion towards it, I'll try to let you know so that you can participate. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Is there anybody else from the audience of citizens? All right, seeing nobody stepping up, we can go to our next item, personnel item.
Yes, we have retirement of a high school teacher, Mr. John Line, after, I believe, 32 years of service as a Berlin high school teacher, has decided to retire. John currently teaches in our social studies department at the high school.
I think is he not the golf coach as well? Or it was?
He was at one point.
The golf coach.
At one point, he was the golf coach.
Yeah, I think my kid, not for golf, I know Ben probably had him for golf, but my own kids had him for a social studies teacher and enjoyed his classes quite a bit, so.
When we had evening high school, he also taught evening high school for a number of years.
Is there a motion?
I move to accept the retirement of John Line, teacher of social studies at Berlin High School, effective June 30, 2020. Also to thank him for the 25 years of service he has provided to the youth of Berlin, and to wish him good health and happiness in his retirement years.
Second.
Motions are moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? It carries. We wish him good health and enjoyment in his retirement at the end of the school year. Consent agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the consent agenda? All right, hearing none, do I have a motion?
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you, seconded by Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. Thank you. We're going to move to new business now. And I did want to put forward the idea of moving item C, the budget update, and take the place of item 1. So it's going to go up front because John has to go to his meeting afterwards, and it'd be nice to have him take part and be able to hear.
So, I mean, I can just comment at this point, we're waiting on the Board of Finances cut. As Matt said earlier, we looked at potential cuts if needed at some point. We're at the 5.36, $2.4 million increase as compared to the 2019-20 operational budget.
I was very pleased with the Board of Finance meeting the other night. I'm hoping that good things come out of it. I would love it if we could have somebody there when they do their workshops as they go forward. So I'm glad to hear that John is going to let us know, and hopefully we can have somebody there to maybe answer questions or be part of the conversation in some way anyway. Thank you, Brian. So now we're going up to Jeff, facilities related.
Just a couple of quick things, but real good ones. We talked about the gym painting for a while now. You remember we were going to do it in the summer, and we couldn't get it through because a lot of things were going on, and et cetera as well. And then we thought we were going to do it over Christmas, and the prices that we got were not acceptable. So at any rate, we now have put it out to bid. Although we had 8 or 9 companies come in and do the walkthrough review, we only got 2 bids. We'd like to have 3 or more, but we got 2 bids. Interesting how this stuff works. It's a good teaching event for anybody that's involved. We had one bid that was relatively lower than what we thought, which is lower than $20,000, about $17,000. That's not an exact figure. And then we also had a bid at $16,000. So you can see. So we looked at this and said, well, listen, normally when you have bids that are that far apart, you either go out to bid again or you decide what you can do to do whatever. We made a decision, Doug and I made a decision to, we will scope out the low bid because we figure if there's any reason that we can have a bid of that size, which is lower than what we actually estimated, to do the work, it'd be great. We did that the other day. The firm was very, very good. They were very prepared. They knew exactly what we wanted. We had the architects there. We walked over everything, did the list, and so on and so forth. So we are going to recommend it's going to happen through the town because remember that's some of the money that we left over to the town. They're going to award it to them. We also now have a few extra dollars to do some other trim like new pads and things like that that are necessary for the gym. We don't want to have a new sparkling gym and have some old things hanging there, so we're going to take care of a lot of things. So anyways, I'm very pleased to tell you that the schedule on that will start 2 days after classes stop. And along with that, if you remember, we're not only doing the gym, but we are also sprucing up the wellness room a little bit also, since we have the painters in there. So anyways, that's one project that we've been waiting on, and it's going to be completed the first thing in the summer. The second thing is you heard us talk about the blast room. That should have been an actual course that we gave for people that were in middle school or high school on how a project should be done. Nothing to do with me, by the way. This had to do with the coordination between not only the architect, the engineer, the programming with the staff from pupil services, Doug from facilities, and an outside contractor, and then all the staff of the town facilities department. They did the project outrageously well. It looks tremendous. It's done to scope. It looks like a brand new facility. And we also just got done ordering, we have all the appliances in there. We just got done ordering additional furniture, what was necessary. And I will tell you that we estimated a long while back, and again, I'm not the estimator, so I'm not taking credit for this, but we estimated about $200,000 for this project. We not only, the town and the staff, I want to give a special thanks to Cindy Martin and to Doug because they did the majority of the work. We not only got the project done on time in the schedule we wanted it, but also within budget, including all the new furniture that's being brought. If you get a chance to go in there and see it, I was in there again the other day with Cindy. Fabulous. can all do these things, it would have been great to teach someone how to do a construction project. That's how well this thing came out. And I think it's gonna be a showpiece for what we're trying to do for our students. That's all.
It's great news. Excellent. Good job. Good job. Actually, I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'd like to go down there and see it. Next up, the proposed school calendar of the 21-22 year. Now, we were sent, actually, were you and I the only ones sent it because on the agenda for a committee? No, you all got it. Okay. We had a discussion with Aaron at a committee meeting, the curriculum committee meeting. If I'm saying something that's not accurate, please let me know. And we had a couple of questions and asked Aaron to go back and get us a little bit more information because there are a few changes from this next year, so we're already talking 2 years in advance. There are a few changes from what we were looking for, or we have already voted in for next year. So before we take a formal vote on that, we wanted a few more questions answered, and it'll be going back through the curriculum subcommittee again, and then probably back up for a vote right after that. So within a month or so, we'll be seeing this come back up, more than likely. Was that accurate? Aaron, did you have anything else you wanted to add on that? Okay. Carrie, are we okay? All right. And that takes us to the last item, graduation for 21 and beyond. So we all were given survey results. Hopefully everybody got a chance to look at the survey results. I'm actually very curious what the two of you think about moving graduation to a Friday. So, Jen, it wouldn't impact you, right? You're still going to be killing Father's Day. But Ryan would be potentially moving to a Friday. So, Jen, let's start with you. How do you feel about a Sunday graduation?
Personally, it doesn't really affect me because I feel like my family lives close enough so they can all just come in for the day and that works. But my only thing with the Sunday is I'm a camp counselor for the Parks and Rec, and it starts that the following Monday. So because of all-night grad going all night, I have to take that Monday off. So
you have to miss the very first day of camp?
yeah, other than that, I don't really mind.
That's good feedback. How about Ryan? What do you think about moving it to a Friday?
I mean, I've been to them the past 2 years because I play in the band there and
Yeah.
stuff, and I kind of like it, having it on the Sunday afternoons because I think that, and I know it's Father's Day too, and some people probably aren't fans of that, but in my opinion, I kind of like it there. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So this is a discussion at this point. We don't have any kind of a motion coming, but are they?
Yes.
Yeah, they're juniors actually.
Yes.
Oh,
Abby,
perfect.
Ellen, and Alex.
This is perfect.
Have them take the headphones off.
They were. Yeah.
I thought I
Oh.
You guys have the tech guys in the
Abby took a shower, I think.
You guys want to share some opinion with us? We have all the people's opinions who filled out the survey, but we're this is just parents, right, Brian? We didn't ask the kids for the survey at this point. Anybody? Are the guys in the back, anything? We'd love some feedback from you. You're a tech guy. You can't be standing this far from a microphone, can you? Come on up.
Eileen is loving this.
Hello, my name is Alex. I'm a senior this year. I'm graduating. I kind of like graduating on a Sunday. It kind of gives me Saturday just to kind of as a day to just relax, like a day off before I graduate. I think Friday night would kind of be too chaotic for me. It's just my opinion. Yeah.
What if the last day of finals was a Monday? The previous Monday, so you'd have
Well,
Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.
as a senior, I really hoping I'd have no finals.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Good answer,
Yeah.
Alex.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to weigh in? Oh, come on. Nobody?
Affect you guys.
It's not a big stage, it's only a small podium. Is that 21?
You like it, but why do you agree with Ryan? Come on, come on. So why do you agree? What's your name, first of all? I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is Abby, and I'm a junior.
Okay. Why do you agree with Ryan?
So I actually agree with both of them. I agree with the part where Jenna said about her family, because my family lives close too, so I don't think that would be a big issue. I know if people are bringing grandparents from out of state, it might be harder to get them in on a Friday opposed to a Sunday. But I agree with Alex too about how It would just give you a couple of days to just relax before, and I like the Sunday. I don't think
All right.
anything. of
Thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Anybody else brave enough to come to the microphone? Nobody back there? All right, then how about us up here? What are our takeaways from the surveys?
And we were just saying, the parents want opposite what the kids are saying.
Right.
Can we survey the kids? Everyone's graduating. Or not, they don't have to, but it just seems like that's an opposite.
Well, certainly can. It's not a
I think
problem.
it's worth it.
The parent, I mean, what are we, I don't know.
Maybe we weigh both. We weigh both. But I think it's a valid point.
We don't have to, I'm just saying it's interesting.
No, I think it's a valid point. There's no reason why we shouldn't be. Jenna, yeah.
I filled out the survey on behalf of my parents.
What is your comment?
I wonder how many other students.
I don't know. Whose parents don't know how to use email?
I don't remember now. There were so many options.
So the other thing that we had asked, and I don't know if it was just that our memories weren't serving us, or if we actually didn't discuss this, but was there any discussion about moving it from Sunday to Saturday, or did we only discuss moving Sunday to Friday night?
I believe we only talked about Friday night. I don't think so.
What was we were at, that was part of our committee conversation in terms of, is Saturday even a viable option? Because what I was taking away from the comments was that a lot of the parents appreciated that we were thinking about moving it off of Sunday, but that for the other half of them that didn't like the move, it was because Friday's a work day. And we're gonna have, like you were saying, we're gonna have to bring people in from out of town. Friday becomes a work day, so we have to take the entire day off to be able to get there, and then we won't have a lot of times with our kids before they go off to all-night grad because it would have to be in the evening. So I just didn't remember whether we considered Saturday or not.
The other thing that wasn't mentioned here tonight, but was mentioned in some of the comments, is that Sunday, of course, is Father's Day. So that is sometimes a tricky thing for folks in terms of.
Well, we absolutely can go
It's okay
back.
if you've got someone, if your kid is graduating, but, if you're one of the teachers or if you might not love that idea.
Or even an invited guest. And I was just, I talked about it with my wife, and I know this is something we've talked about, and I filled out the survey last year, which was similar responses. I personally like the Friday. I'm thinking if it's a graduation, and I know a year in advance when I'm graduating, where my child is graduating, I can take a half a day or something like that. And I like the fact that if we have family coming in, now they can stay the weekend. Versus they come in on Sunday, you graduate, you try to have a quick little party, off to the all-night grad party, and relatives are back because they need to go to work on Monday. I just thought it, afforded a greater ability to utilize the weekend for family time. So I personally, I like the Friday, but it seems like the majority do. I don't know that Saturday, I don't know if it really does much for me.
Don't know, it just was a question that came up during our committee meeting. Certainly, we've done now 2 surveys, right, Brian? And both of them were almost identical.
Yes, around 77%, 75%.
So overwhelming coming off of Sunday is the preference.
We could definitely do a student survey, it's not a problem. We could also go back and look at Saturday. I mean,
Can I add something? So, I have two things. So correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but we talked in the past about maybe more staff will participate if it's the last day of school, and then you can get more staff members there. So I think that's kind of why we stuck with the Friday versus Saturday. However, when I read through the comments, comment 59 has a really valid point that I didn't even think of, and it really makes me reconsider it after hearing from the students and this. It says, Friday evenings would present issues in the following areas: heavy vehicle traffic on Friday afternoon to 7 p.m. That area is so tough to get through. I drive through it every day to get to work, and it's like an extra 10, 15 minutes on a 10-minute commute. And then, then they're talking about rush to the all-night grab party, possess logistical concerns, with traffic, after ceremony pictures. So, just wanted to bring your attention to that comment.
So actually, that raises a point. Are we locked into a certain time frame if we move it to a Friday? Has anybody communicated with Welty? Like, could we do it a little earlier in the afternoon if we wanted
We've
to?
tried to communicate with Welty, and that's why, in the update it stated that it's contingent upon Welty being available at this point. So
Right.
to even to lock it in, we'd have to wait to see if Welty's available. We can't book until a year out. We have inquired, though. So if we wanted to shift to a Saturday, we could inquire about the Saturday, but it's still a year out from that date.
Or even a little earlier on Friday might be a
Absolutely.
possibility as well?
Absolutely.
Do you see an issue? Has anybody talked to the staff about moving it from Friday to Sunday? Do you see any issues there on that side?
From Sunday to Friday?
I mean, I said it backwards, yeah, Sunday to Friday.
No, I've not heard anything from the staff about changing it. And the original premise was that it was on Father's Day, so that was the whole premise of moving it. If Saturday is an option, and you want to see what parents think about Saturday versus Friday, we could definitely look at that. We could look at earlier on Friday.
Do you have any, I was just going to ask Eileen, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Have you heard anything from the staff in terms of preference?
Not necessarily preference, other than Father's Day, when you're going, people that work in the building for 15, 20, 25 years, and they're continually missing Father's Day.
Right.
I do honestly think we could get more people there if it wasn't specifically on Father's Day. So, Friday night is convenient. I know some of the seniors talked about wanting to have a little bit of time in between, but, the majority of our senior students do not take exams. So they're really not taking exams right up until that time because of the seniors exam, exemption policy, provided that they meet certain criteria. Right, Alex?
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say from a staff perspective, you might not want to say it, but I just am thinking this. I'm thinking if it's not gonna be on the Sunday, the staff would prefer to have it on a Friday. That's just my own thought. That being said, if you do it earlier, I mean, even if you read in comment 59, they suggest a late morning or morning time.
Right.
That's a little too early.
Too early.
I know.
But I mean, if
2,
it's
3 o'clock,
Friday,
maybe,
if-
something to that?
I was thinking like 3 o'clock on
Yeah.
a Friday afternoon. I mean, for people that are concerned about work, you can still get a half day in and make it there prior to traffic. Don't forget, the university is gonna be out on summer break by then, so there's not gonna be a lot of traffic on campus. And it seems to, and that way, there's still the ability to take pictures outside after graduation, because the graduation is usually about an hour and a half, right?
Yes.
And so there's still time to take pictures, spend a little time with family, before, what time do kids have to load up for the all-night grad party?
Isn't it like 8:30, 8 or 8:30, something like that, they head to the high school? No? I thought it was.
I think they get
Right,
down,
it's
I
there.
think they get down to the substation around 8:30.
Okay. So that still should give us, they should give families a little bit of time together before.
Yeah. So in my district, it's a full work day, and we go, and we have a huge staff turnout, and they do something really nice for us, actually. They bring in a caterer and do like hors d'oeuvres and desserts and cocktails after, so staff can stay and not have to worry about the traffic.
Cocktails?
Yes. I'm just saying, I'm not saying where I work, I'm just letting you know. And it's like a nice, fun way for the high school staff to end the year. It's really just a nice way to get everyone together, and everyone really looks forward to it, so.
But is your graduation held on the
Last day of school.
regardless of where it falls?
Yeah, so it could be a
As is ours.
Tuesday, it could be a Friday, it could be,
Most schools are.
but on the last day of
Held
school.
on the grounds?
No, it's held at the Oakdale, so we go there.
Really?
After
And
a
it's-
full workday, and we have a huge staff turnout, so it's a big incentive to get teachers to go and stay, and we have our own end-of-year celebration.
So the Oakdale must be flexible enough that they can move it around a little bit with snow days. We have it on premises on our football field, so ours is also on the last day, but it doesn't matter because we house the whole thing ourselves. So we don't have to book a venue like Welty and trying to get it locked in advance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the Oakdale, I think, probably has a lot more going on than Welty.
Is the last day of school, let's say that Friday, that would be exams. So what time are exams over on that day? Is it?
By noon, right?
11?
I'm sorry, I think it's 11:45. I'm sorry, I
It's
only
okay.
worked here once, so.
By noon they're over.
Yeah, it's definitely before noon.
Okay, so let's say by noon, and the majority of the staff that are gonna be there are from the high school. And you still give them 3 hours of time to do whatever prior to getting there. I still think it's.
And there are actually exams on that day, so will they have time? That's what I'm trying to find out. Okay.
You also have to squeeze a rehearsal in for seniors.
Right.
And so depending, oftentimes it really depends on when the last day falls of exams, so as to when the rehearsal itself is, so.
I have another question, but for the teachers, don't the teachers come back like after the last student day of school for in-service?
Depends
It
on the
depends.
calendar. It depends on the calendar.
Right, so
Looking at the
even,
calendars moving forward.
even so, if teachers still have to keep coming back, I don't know if it's gonna be like an issue, like, oh, this is cutting into my summer break. And typically, those are really light work days if your exams are graded and you're just cleaning up and,
But next year, we did not add the PD on, so it's not
Okay,
an
it's not,
in-service
it's
day
not.
next year. The first day that it would, the first year it would move maybe potentially to Friday. We didn't go on that one. Any other, go ahead, please.
Reflects the consent at the table as to why Saturday was and has never been an option. Was it Welty Hall? Was it athletics?
The discussion we had, and I drafted the survey and sent it out to everybody, just specified Friday. Like,
No, I mean, but historically.
yeah, I don't think there was any reason why it wasn't Saturday. I just thought that there's more schools that have it on the last day or that Friday, so that was the discussion. I think at this point, we know that people would accept Friday. The bigger question is, do we want to go back now and say, would you prefer Friday or Saturday or Sunday? Do we want, is that, is that?
But why has Berlin Public Schools historically always had a Sunday graduation?
I cannot answer that.
That's what
I'm guessing.
We're the land of steady habits.
I know, I've been there for years. I'm guessing the availability of Welty.
I know.
Yeah. There's always been a relationship with CCSU. And, as far as when pools, gyms, there's always been this relationship between programs. I'm assuming that at some point, Sundays were available, Welty was open, and that's where we went. And I don't even know if, there was a monetary cost or it was an exchange, so that's how I'm guessing.
Someone does make mention of, choose the, well, yeah, people do put Saturday in here too, but someone said, choose the one,
Cheaper.
whatever.
It's cheaper.
Yeah.
Yes.
Most cost effective,
Yes.
basically, for the venue.
Brian, we had 332 responses.
How many said Saturday?
How many were sent out? So we have 332 responses.
Jenna filled out 500 of them.
We sent them out to juniors and seniors.
Juniors and seniors, so.
No,
How
No,
big-
no, no.
sophomores and
no.
juniors, wasn't it?
Sophomores.
Sophomores
my
and
fault. I know two
juniors.
grades.
Right, right.
So you're talking
How big are those classes approximately?
220, 230 tops, so you're talking.
So it's pretty
If
big.
there's, if there's split
About a
families,
two-thirds-
split
Yeah.
families, probably 500.
Two-thirds response.
Probably 500.
So that's a decent response number for that.
So
I would
in
think.
out of all the responses, I mean, I read Saturday being a possibility in line 59. I don't know if there was anywhere else.
No, I think it was
There were a
just
couple
why
there.
why Friday. It was a bunch of why Fridays.
But we didn't ask them about Saturday, Adam, we only asked them about Friday, so those were independently. I know you're
Yeah.
really high on Friday, we've heard that.
Oh, no. No, I'm just saying that, just be careful how much you want to.
Comment number 2 asks for Saturday.
So, I guess what I'm getting at is we have a 2/3 response, and of the 2/3 of the people that responded, more than 3/4 of them are in agreement to move graduation to Friday. I mean, if this was a budget vote, we overwhelmingly would have said, way to go, the people have spoken. My question is, why are we arguing? It seems to me that people would like to have it moved. We're never gonna get 100%.
never.
So, I'm saying, let's make it Friday and move on. Sorry, Ryan. We'll let you sing though.
Just a comment I was thinking of, with moving it to Saturday followed by all-night grad, and then the next day Father's Day. Parents might not realize this now, but they might be really upset if their children who, before they go off to school or whatever they do, can't spend that last Father's Day at home with their dads. I don't know, just a thought, because their kid, after being out at an all-night grad party, probably isn't going to.
No, they sleep the whole.
There you go. So they won't be able to celebrate the father, going into one of the comments that Father's Day should be for fathers only.
I just think it's important to remember that this is contingent upon, if we do make a change, that Welty's available.
Yes.
Welty's available.
So we could have to go back out and say, okay, is Saturday an option at that point if Friday doesn't work? You know, I mean, that's the whole, if we wanted to do that. So, or do we go back to Sunday if Welty's not available? You know, we've typically had Father's Day, so the likelihood that we're gonna get Father's Day and that Sunday typically is gonna be available. But, you know, Friday may or may not be. So, I mean, we can make the decision here. I just think, you know, that contingency has to be ready for that, you know, a contingency if it's not.
It's obviously contingent on whether Welty Hall is available or not, right? We've been down that dangerous road of, let's move it from Welty, that even though someone in the comments said, hey, why don't you have it at Sage? But we've already been down that road, so it is contingent, all of this work is contingent on us being able to secure Welty Hall in Berlin's tradition of graduating there.
So I guess the question I'm asking is, what if it's not Friday? Do we go survey again, or do we just go back to Sunday? You know, what if it doesn't, you know, if we can't get Friday? Because that is a possibility.
My instinct is if we call up Welty and it's not available, then we try Saturday. Before we go back to Sunday, I would like to at least try Saturday. So maybe Matt's right, maybe we're overanalyzing this because we're reading the comments, because we have access to all the comments. But in any case, maybe this becomes our next meeting where we bring it back again one more time and kind of summarize things, and then have a motion at that point.
Or
I think-
maybe wait until our July meeting after Welty's been available.
Well, we would have to check on the availability for Welty.
No, we need to make the move
Oh, we have to
a
make
year
it
out.
ahead
We
of
gotta make the
time.
move like day of. We want.
We have to lock it in.
So it's got to be, but that's not really until June.
Right.
So we do have a little bit of time
Yes.
before we have to
Yes, we
make
do.
this decision and make the phone call.
Till May.
Sooner, but I just need to know what day, like, we're happy to make phone calls ahead of time to slide us in, but I just need to know what we want to commit.
I don't think there's any question that we want to move it off of Sunday if at all possible. And I
it's
don't
kinda
think we have.
First choice
right.
is Friday, second
Right.
choice is Saturday. If both of those fail, we go back to what we've been doing.
And I don't know, we don't need to wait, we're not going to wait purposefully until June to make this decision, so you'll know in advance, because also All-Night Grad Party gets impacted as well. Has anybody contacted All-Night Grad Party on this? Are they okay, at least in theory, of moving it to a Friday? Okay, so the sub-base or wherever they're going is not going to be, they'll be okay with that. That's good to know, too. Okay, any other comments or questions on this? Then I think we'll look forward to be on the next agenda probably, and we'll probably have a motion at that point. All right. Last piece for today. Oh, before we, wait, oh, go ahead, you go ahead.
Well, yeah, no, actually, I have two questions, and I don't know how this fits into the agenda, but Brian, can you talk to us about what is coming from the state relative to the coronavirus and how we need to prepare for that?
Sure. Prior to this meeting, the governor had a phone conference with elected town officials, superintendents. On that conference, we had the state health department director, as well as other individuals, the commissioner of education, the preschool director for the state. And the discussion really was looking at other, especially Westchester County, where there's more cases, and what they're doing, and that what they're predicting is that we'll be in a similar state. We're just early in the process. And so in speaking to those town officials and across the country, the one thing that they wish that they did different is they acted sooner. So some of the measures that have been put in place this week, one of them was the cleaning of the classrooms and the materials that can be used. All schools are green schools. They've not really waived, but looked at the state legislation and have allowed bleach back into the schools as a cleaning agent. We've been wiping down all flat surfaces every Friday in every classroom, cafeteria, and so on with a disinfectant. We will now, as of Thursday, start to use bleach to wipe down every Friday, as well as the clean that takes place during the week. We'll use bleach also as a cleaning agent. The other concern is that the recommendation is that any meeting that's over 100 individuals should not take place unless it's an academic and needs to take place. The impact would be sporting events. Eileen and I are under discussion. We just started this afternoon prior to this and wanted to hear what the governor had to say. Upbeat weekend, talking about that. any event that has 100 or more individuals at. And this comes from the lessons learned at others. And the direction is really a management issue, trying to stop the interactions of carriers with large groups. If the other part I'd like to add, just about school, because it's a big question. So what if we had, we're putting plans, and Aaron's been working with Lori and Cara and the administrators to put in plans if we had to shut down school. And one of the questions that I received was, well, when would you shut down school? Well, I think it could be a directive from the governor, but it also could be in isolation if we had a bunch of cases here in Berlin, that we would just shut down Berlin schools. It's not a statewide.
Would you do it at one or
Well,
multiple?
I would look for direction from the health department at that point. And, I think there needs, to say it's just one, you have to see where that case came from and so on. But beyond that, talking about trips and things, can you restrict trips? The direction on that, and this is legal counsel, is that you cannot restrict trips. You can advise people they shouldn't go on trips, but you cannot restrict someone from going on a trip. The other piece is, if we needed to shut down the schools, if it is for a 2-week period or less, we're not expected to have distance learning and all of this process in place. Those days would either need to be made up during April or at the end of June. We would need to conclude by July 1 because that's state statute. So those days would then be made up either in April or a combination of both. If we need to close for a prolonged period of time, then we would institute some time of distance learning. And that's where it gets a little cloudier about how does it work and so on. And I can't give you direction at this point because we haven't thought it all through, nor as a state. There's huge implications with daycare for parents and so on. So that's kind of the framework of where we're at. I've sent one letter. You have a copy of the parents. I anticipate sending another letter this Friday, just updating about the cleaning, updating about the governor and the commissioner's comments, just to give them a little more information so they have a greater understanding of the potential of what could occur.
Yeah, I have a question based on something you just said. You mentioned the trips. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm trying to understand. You said the attorney said that, or not the attorney, I'm sorry, who was it? It was the attorney. That we cannot cancel field trips?
No. We can cancel field trips,
Okay.
not town trips. If an individual, so April vacation,
All right,
April
okay.
vacation's
All
on the
right.
horizon.
I just wanted to make sure I was
So
clear.
if an individual wanted to travel, let's just say they want to travel out of the country or travel to a place where it's more prevalent, at that point, we can ask them not to and recommend, but we cannot prohibit them from traveling. We can prohibit them from working after that point.
Right, it can be a quarantine situation
That's
if
right.
necessary.
But if that's the case, it's then, there is, we would have to pay them for their time.
So what about field trips? We have a field trip that's going to Tennessee in April break.
And we need to look at, we're looking at the field trips and reviewing them, and that's in conversation. I said, I didn't want to make a decision on field trips. I just got the phone call at 5 today. That was a conference call. I want to have time to talk to Eileen and discuss what field trips are coming up. The first one that's on the agenda is to talk about Upbeat this weekend. And
Okay.
we haven't
Oh,
had
that's
time
right.
to talk,
Yeah,
we haven't
that
had time to
we
discuss
were
Would
that.
that qualify as more than 100 people in a space at a time?
Absolutely. But, the question I have, and this is something maybe to call the health department, so in thinking about it, it's the same students that are here in school together in the school. So that may be a little different than going to I'm going to say a sporting event where you have now 2 or 3 different communities, anyone can walk into that event. So the cross-pollination between the group is different. So I want a little more clarification about the Upbeat, because I think that's a little more unique. It's just Berlin students. So I probably will give a phone call to Charles Brown at the Central Connecticut Health District to get a
And
little.
then at the end of this week is the state conference, the Youth in Government. The Youth in Government State Conference, that's coming on the 13th to the 15th. That's an overnight in Hartford, I believe, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So we'll be
All right.
discussing those tomorrow morning and then come out with something. I can update all of you on the decisions we're making. I know that we had a conference tomorrow, an AP conference. I know that Eileen and Aaron were going to attend it. I was going to attend it, and they've canceled that conference. So you're starting to see more and more agencies start to pull back.
Do you anticipate this to get worse after April break with families and teachers traveling?
I think the comments I've made by, on Friday, I had a call with Charles Brown, the Central Connecticut Health District, and his conversation to me is that he feels that Connecticut just got their state lab up, I believe on Wednesday or Thursday last week, to test for coronavirus. So he feels that it's already here within Connecticut. It just hasn't been tested because we didn't have the resources to test it. So he thinks like the incubation period will be now, and he thinks we'll see within the next 2 weeks be much greater in Connecticut. He doesn't think we're immune to it, is what I'm saying. As we look now as compared to the surrounding states, you know, we look at Mass and you look at even Westchester County, it's, you know, there's more prevalent. And I guess, as I said before, the biggest question is the not knowing, you know, where it's going is looking where the other states are and what they're doing. If those measures are put in place, you're not going to eliminate. The idea is to minimize, right? That's the whole message, is to minimize opportunities to spread the virus at a rapid rate. That's what all these you know, these measures are put in place. So the travel, you know, not less than 100 people, because you have someone who's infected in a room of 100, you now infect another 20, and then they infect it, just, you know, it travels quickly. So
Is the 100 thing just a recommendation?
it's a recommendation at this point. It's not a mandate. We need to make those decisions. So, and that just came out today when like I said, the 5 o'clock phone conference with the governor.
You said you had 2 items. Was there something else?
The second item is that the meeting that we had at the high school, the hockey.
Hockey, I'm glad you mentioned that. I was going to say something. Go ahead.
Came to talk to us. I just want to get it out publicly that is now in the F&O committee's realm. And we will have it on our agenda in the next 2 meetings, so we'll have something to come back with.
Excellent. I'm glad. I didn't want people thinking that we had forgotten about that. We were waiting for information to come, and we got it all today finally. We got everything together, so it's been handed over to the committee. One last thing for me before we go through our adjournment, and that is that the Berlin Public Schools are going to be, their art is going to be displayed at the New Britain Museum of American Art from April 29th to May 4th. Looks like we have a lot of students there whose art will be on display, and I'm hoping to attend, and I hope that we can get a lot of parents and citizens of Berlin to attend as well, to support the kids and the art program as well. Anybody?
Mary Ellen, I think. Mary Ellen has motion made.
A motion to adjourn, Mary Ellen, or did you?
Yeah, I've been here long enough.
Move to adjourn.
There you go.
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Yes. Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you.